Hi, welcome to this video. In this video demo, I'm gonna show you how to get started with Podman instead of Docker. First of all, let's install Podman and Podman Compose with the same shell script. Let me show you some useful commands from Docker. They will run the same as in Docker. And the most nice feature with Podman is ability to run Kubernetes pods with the same pod configuration YAML file. And finally, you can run a Docker Compose file the same way but with Podman Compose. Let's see this in action. And now let's install Podman. I have the installation script. Before proceeding with the installation, we should make sure this script is executable. It should executable permission. So I will add executable permission to this file before installing Podman. And now let's make sure it's now executable. And see it's become executable. You can directly install and run this shell script using install podman.sh. And as you can see, it's installing. Okay, well, it's done now. And I have installed Podman and Podman Compose at the same time. Let's check the version. Podman, I have 3.4.2. And the same way with Podman Compose. It says I have Podman version 3.4.2 with Podman Compose or version 1.03. And now let's run a test container with Podman. I will give it a name as a test container. -d is for detached mode. And I will use busybox with a tag 1.28. Of course, you can choose any tag of your choice. I will run this command inside the container. I will say hello from the container and then sleep for a couple of seconds before exit. Well, let's print something before ending the container. Oh, I have forgot echo the command itself to print out to the console. And the same way here, echo I am done. Thank you. So it will print for hello from the container and will sleep for 20 seconds. Finally, it will print out I am done. Oh, I have forgot to add the name option. And now it should run the container. Podman PS to display all the running containers, and as you can see, it's up to 10 seconds and the name test container. Let's check the logs of the running container, and it says hello from the container, and before exits it says I'm done, thank you. So this is the logs. Now let's see some useful commands. Let's create an empty pod first. I will give it a name as web. And I will label this pod as inf equal div, you can give any labels, and I will expose port 80 inside the container and map this port to port 8080 at localhost. The pod has been created with this ID. This is the pod ID just created. Let's check the pod. Podman pod ps to list all the containers. And now the status is created with the given name with one container. This is the infra container. Let's now inspect this podman inspect, and give it the name. It will display some information about the pod itself, host port, and the port inside the container, labels, state, and create command used to create. This is the command used to create this pod. You can also say podman pod inspect. Podman, you can see the same information. So you can type podman inspect or podman pod inspect the same way. And now let's inspect some pieces of information. When I don't like to print out all this information, just a specific information. Let's take this as an example. CreateCommand, I will copy this value and I will use podman inspect but with a format flag. And you can give it the path of this information you need to print out to the console in double curly braces like this way. So it prints out the command used to create this pod from this value dot create command. Here is another example. I'm printing out only the labels. But now I'd like to use the one label value, which is env. I don't like to print all labels. For example, here I'm printing out the label env, which is dev. It has assigned the value dev. And here, as you can see, labels div is equal to dev. Now let's assign some containers inside this pod. And here we have an empty pod. Podman run with detached mode. And I will specify --pod with the name, just to tell Podman I'd like to run a container with this image inside this pod. The container has been created with this ID, and let's check the pod. And now it has two containers with a status of running. Previously it was created, and now it's running. You can also display the containers running inside the pods. And this command will give you information about running containers plus the pods. So you can see here the infra container and our container, which is vigorous Archimedes. The same way Podman PS or Podman PS hyphen hyphen pod, similar results. But this one, it doesn't display pod ID. Let's view the pod logs. And if I podman pod logs web, it's empty. And in order to generate some logs, I have to curl the nginx container inside the pod. And this is the default index page for nginx server. And now if I check again the pod logs, let's see what it will print out. Podman pod logs and give the name pod web, and now it has printed out some records from the logs because I hit the endpoint of this container. Now let's assign another container inside this pod. And here is our pod. Let's run detached mode, and I will specify the pod name. And this time I will use the busybox image. With this command, I will print out something to the console. Then sleep for a couple of seconds here. I will sleep for 10 seconds. Then finally, I will echo thank you to the console before exiting the container. Sorry. Now let's check the pod. It's now has 3 containers and it's of course in running state. Podman pod logs web, and as you can see, it prints out the logs from both containers. Hello there, thank you, plus the logs from nginx container. And here I have once again I have the containers running inside the pod. Now let's check the logs. I don't have to view all the logs from the containers inside this pod. Let's focus on one container only, and let's type its name, Sleepy Golden, inside the pod. No container with name or ID. I have forgot something. I think Podman logs with the right name here. It's Podman pod logs. Yes, I swapped logs and pod. It's Podman pod logs. Sorry for this error. And I will give the container name, and I will specify the pod name. And here I have the logs only from from the from this container, sleepy golden, not all the logs this time. Podman, pod.ps, and as you can see, I have 3 containers with status degraded because here we have a container that exited. All containers inside this pod is not in running state. If you check the status, you will see exited with 0 code. So we have 2 running containers and 1 exited container. Once again, these are the running containers, and I will stop this pod. Let's check. Podman pod ps, and now it has exited status. All the containers inside the pod has ended, and let's see. Podman ps hyphen a hyphen pod hyphen pod or hyphen ap is a shortcut for hyphen pod. As you can see, all containers has ended. And let's start the pod again. It has started with this ID. Let's check the running containers, and now it has a status of running. And as you can see, I have 2 containers running, and the third one has ended because it prints out something and wait for a couple of seconds before exits. And if I try to print the logs from this for this container, you should see once again the same logs as before. Now let's move to some point that is interesting. Here I have a pod-YAML configuration file, and this is a normal pod configuration file, and I will use this time Podman play, and I will give the name to this file, unknown shorthand. Oh, oops, hyphen f could be used with Kubernetes, not with Podman. Podman play, I have forgot to add kube. I should insert kube before the file name. And pod has been created as well as a container inside this pod. Let's check this pod. The same way, I can see here I have sample pod has been created. But this pod does not have any command. As you can see, it's running busybox image without anything to print to the console. I will edit this file and add some command like we did before, but this time I will add sh-c and I will print something to the console. Echo hello from Kubernetes pod, for example. Anything, it doesn't matter here. Save this file and let's try again to create this pod. And I think we should remove first. Let's remove this one. Stopped and removed. We cannot create two pods with the same name, and it has gone now. So let's create this pod once more. Podman play kube, and give the file name that contains the pod configuration, and pod has been created successfully. Let's check, and it has been created as expected. Let's check the logs for this pod, and as you can see, it keeps printing the same command to the logs. And this is because this container keeps restarting. Each time it restarts, it will print the same to the console. And now let's fix this problem. To fix this issue, we have to edit the file, the pod configuration file. And I will add a restart policy to this container in order to avoid restarting the container forever. Restart policy never or on failure, anything. Any one of them will be okay, and save this file. So let's try to create this pod once more and see what will happen. Pod created and container created. Let's check podman pod ps, and we have busy pod created. Podman pod logs to see the logs, and this time we have only once log hello there and thank you. We don't have the repeating logs. Podman ps-ep. So here we have two containers inside the pod, and once again we can display the logs for a single container inside the pod instead of displaying the logs from all the pods. So here I have hello there thank you without printing the container ID. Now let's remove this pod, as we don't need this pod once more. Pod stopped first before removing this pod. And let's check. And now we don't have any pod. Podman pod ps, and check with e flag. We don't have any pod. ps-8 will display also the stopped pods, but we don't have any pods yet. Now let's see how to run Docker Compose files, but with Podman. As we have installed the Podman Compose, I can start this Docker Compose file the same way as we did in Docker. It has created the containers for me. And let's check Podman Compose ps, and the same results as we do in Docker Compose ps. It will display the containers from this stack, and easily you can remove the whole containers declared inside Docker Compose file. and this will remove the containers and network established for these containers. You can alias Podman or Podman Compose if you still wanna use Docker command instead of Podman. So you can give it an alias as Docker and easily and simply run Docker instead of Podman. Docker ps-8 will and Docker hyphen hyphen version, of course, it will display Podman version instead of Docker because I don't have any Docker installed on this machine. And the same way, alias Docker compose equal Podman compose, I don't have to use Podman compose if I need to use Docker compose instead of Podman compose. Well, I think this is pretty much it, and thank you for watching.